Greetings, I am Tom Earl, and this is the celebration. We know you could be anywhere, so the fact that you are here today, sharing your greatest gifts, your time and energy means the world to me. I hope you know that in this moment, you are valued, you are appreciated, and you are loved just as you are. As you can see, I'm not alone. I have an amazing guest. She goes by the name of Crystal Waddell. What's going on, Crystal? How are you?
Good, Tom. Thanks for having me.
You're welcome. So for the good folks out there, here's what happened. So I said to Crystal, can we meet for a coaching session? And before it, will you record a testimonial? We just did that. And I was like, hey, we both got the lights, camera, action on. Do you want to record an interview? And she was like, sure. And then I was like, well, here's the thing. I haven't done an interview in like a year. I've been mostly doing replays, and I'm going to experiment with the format. So in other words, I was like, hey, improv, do you want to do an interview? And it's going to be an experimental interview. Are you down? And she was like, sure. So I just want to first of all say the courage, the go for it. I appreciate you so much for taking this leap of faith with me.
Oh man, no problem. I'm always up for something new. It's like, let's mix it up. Why not?
That's what's up. Okay, so let's start here. Just kind of start throwing out random things. It doesn't have to be in any coherent like fashion. Why don't you share a little bit? Like, I'm this, I'm that, I do this, I do that. Like it could be personal, whatever comes up to you, just like channel the bio. Could be random. Like it could be, I love burgers and fries and jet skiing. And it's like, and that's all we're going to get. Like whatever comes up to you, go for it.
Okay. I'm a mother. I'm a wife. I have a beautiful but naughty doggie named Desi. And I had a heart attack in 2020. I am an e-commerce seller. I help people with their SEO. Oh my gosh, there's so many random things about me. I used to teach adapted physical education. So I have my master's degree in teaching. Yeah, I think that pretty much sums it up.
See, this is already my experimental. I was like, I want to stop doing the like bio, where it's like, and they did this, and then they did this, and then they did this. Because it's like, well, damn, you took us on a journey on that.
Yeah,
threw in the heart attack in
happened.
There. Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, we're going to have to dive into that for sure. Let me ask you another prompt. It goes like this. If you really knew me, you would know that I.
Oh, gosh. That is so crazy. If I really knew you, I would know that you have a jungle Zoom background.
No, not me. You. If you really.
Yes. You, me. Oh, okay.
Although that'd be fun to see where people go with that. No, that's for you. If you really knew me, you would know that I.
Oh, if you really knew me, you would know that my perfect day doesn't include anything to do with accomplishments. Like my perfect day is waking up and having coffee on my back porch, looking over what I call not my farm behind my house, taking my son to school, picking my son up from school, and getting a workout in. That's my perfect day.
That's what's up. I love that. Mm-hmm. I love that. So if you really knew me, you'd know what my perfect day looks like.
Mm-hmm.
That's awesome. Okay, so this is the part where we're going to turn off our videos. So for the good folks out there, I want to experiment this year with audio rather than just video. I want to see potentially what it brings out in both myself and others. I know for sure for me, I like react differently, or I feel like there's almost a part of myself that finds itself almost performing when there's video on. I don't know. Do you relate to that at all?
Absolutely. I don't know where to look So, that's my first problem. I'm like, do I look at the camera? Do I look at you? Do I look at myself? So yeah, I thank you for turning the camera off so I don't feel like I'm looking off to the side.
And I was like, going back and forth, and part of me was like, yeah, but then the clips, man, you got to have the clips, and people, and I'm like, well, 90% of the clips we put out now are B-roll anyways. So I think we'll be okay,
Yeah. Yeah.
So another kind of format that I want to experiment with is more conversational than just peer interview.
Okay.
So I'm thinking, we're going to kind of feel this out, but something more like, I'm going to ask you a couple questions. You can jump in at any time and ask me questions. But then at some, if I feel like it's imbalanced one way or the other, then I'll jump in and say like, okay, why don't I ask some questions? Or, hey, why don't you ask some questions, and just see where we can go conversationally. Does that make sense?
Okay. Yeah, that sounds good.
So I have a bunch of curiosity questions from things that you brought up. But before I do that, is there a question you wanted to throw into the space that you wanted us to wrestle with?
Yeah, I'm curious why you're making this shift.
Which shift?
In your business model.
Such a good question. You go right for that one.
Well, we're already warmed up, right?
Yeah. Because I was like, how am I eventually going to share this in a podcast form? Okay, so let me dive into this without making the whole episode me just talking.
Okay.
I got to experience the level of success that I've always dreamed of financially. When I was thinking of when you were doing like, what's your perfect day? What was very interesting is anytime I do a what's your perfect day exercise, maybe like 2-3 years ago, which is the last time I've done one, is very much like all about what my business would look like. It's like I do this and then that, and I do this and I do that. And then like I'd get home and then maybe there'd be a little bit about like family life and stuff like that. So financially and in my business, I got to experience a lot of those perfect days. Like I had 2 full-time salespeople. So that was one of my things. I wanted to be off sales calls. And the one person we had that was consistent, she was like a rock star, like the kind of person that not only grows your team, but grows you as a person. Her name's Ashley. If anybody's ever looking for the best closer out there ever, I can connect you if she's looking. And then I got to work with super awesome clients like you and some other people. And, at one point we had like 50 clients. And then I had Jamie, who was like just the most creative, brilliant entrepreneur and poet ever that was on our team, and Sophia.
Yes.
So all these amazing people, like everything I've dreamed of, dream team, perfect clients, money coming in, and I can spend like almost anything I want on ads. And simultaneously what happened is like the factor that I didn't really anticipate was how much I enjoy being a dad. I personally didn't want to get married or have kids. It's kind of like a leap of faith I took with Adora. She's like, I think you're really going to like being married and having kids. And I was like, I really trust your judgment. I don't think I am, but I trust you. And so I'm going to take this leap of faith. And as always, she was right. And I kind of realized like, I like being a dad, maybe a smidge more than I like my business, which was a huge transformation for me, because my business has been like my entire identity since I was like 10. My business back then was my band. So I was like, oh, I want to be able to like just spend time researching and game planning and being creative around my like home life. You know what I mean? Like instead of being like, I have 4 hours, let me think of a new way to serve my clients. I want to think of a new way to like kick ass as a dad. So like I was kind of realizing, okay, I now have an offer that I could scale to the moon, and I don't want to. It takes up like all of my life. It's super stressful. There's always fires to put out. If I leave, because it's done for you stuff, if I there's always deadlines. And because I have a commission-based staff, I always have to be selling. And I was like, I just want to, I'd like rather be happy than be successful. And I'd rather be present with my family than have a kick-ass business.
Can I tell you what I think is interesting about that?
Yes,
really
jump
quick?
in. Go ahead. Yes.
Well, just the fact that you differentiate happiness and success, whereas I see happiness, I see you happy and I see you successful, because now you're building this life around what you love. You know what I mean? And that to me is the epitome of success.
100%. And I mean, like now we go like, that's kind of like the story. So what's like the spiritual lessons learned? And that's 100% it, that it's like, I was kind of chasing this success story that I think especially guys are socialized to follow, where it's like success is wealth and accolades that you can write down on a piece of paper. And if people read them before you get into a room, they will respect you. And it's like, that's not success. You know what I mean? So it's like, like totally true what you're saying, that it's like your inner purpose of happiness is primary and should align with your outer purpose.
Yeah. Do you think it was when you were like, just 2020, like being home and being with your family so much that shifted your perspective? Do you think that had anything to do with it?
So 2020, I was both working in my business and I was almost a full-time contractor for a nonprofit doing fundraising. And my daughter was born in February 2020. And so then I got about 12 weeks of paternity leave. And I was like, I need to have my business in a place where I have cash flow enough that I don't have to, I can be my own boss, because then I can set my own schedule. So then I was like chasing this then. So that worked. I got it to the point in 10 weeks where it was efficient enough where I could leave my job. And I think I was just like chasing then for the next 2 years, like, okay, as soon as it gets to this amount of revenue, then I can take a step back. And then when it finally got to like that amount of revenue that all of us in our mind have that number of like, God, if I'm ever making this much, this is what my life's going to look like. And then I made that much and I was like, oh, this will never end. Like I will continually just increase that number of how much I need to make before I can take a step back. So like, I guess I'm not quite sure if that answered your question.
Yeah, no, it did.
Okay.
And it, paints a picture. But I mean, I guess that's another thing that I loved about being a part of your group was I could watch all of this, or at least when I came in. And it's so interesting. I think this story is just so important for people to hear. One of those lessons that maybe we don't have to learn completely for ourselves, just to see, what looks like something that we want may not be exactly what we want. So that's the most specific example I've ever heard. And thank you for sharing.
Yeah, I appreciate that. It's kind of like one of those things where it's like, do you have to get punched in the face to understand picking fights is a bad idea, or can you just like take the advice from the person and who's been in them? And sometimes in some areas of our life, like we're able to just, oh, stove's hurt, I won't put my hand on it. And other times you just got to put your hand on it and be like, this sucks. And some people though will just keep their hand on it for the next 40 years until a major crisis happens or a reckoning. And I'm just blessed that I just had the tools and people around me that I think figuring this out at 35 is just, I'm just grateful.
A blessing.
Yeah.
Well, and I was going to say, I had kind of leaned into what you were feeling about, because I was at the opposite end of the spectrum. I'm a maker. an artisan. And so, I was teaching full time and, trying to grow this handmade e-commerce business on the side. And I was burning it on, every end. So, I was up in the morning, 4:30 or 5, go to work, come home, work late. My family was doing things without me, all those types of things. And I was doing it for far less. You know what I mean? So I think I was chasing this idea of success that would someday end, but the problem with that business model is that you're always going to have to make something. You're always going to have your hands in it, at least until you can hire staff and that type of thing. And so what's crazy is I actually had this epiphany, even before my heart attack, that, hey, something is wrong here, and that's when I kind of came up with what would my perfect day look like if, all things considered, what would my perfect day be like? I realized that the only things that could be on my perfect day were the things that I could actually control. Not that I can control waking up in the morning, but if I could get that far, I have a very small list of things that make me very, very happy. And that is my perfect day. Anything else that happens beyond that is just icing on the cake now.
Well, do you want to share with us a little bit about the experience of having a heart attack, or is that something that you're kind of burnt out on talking about?
Oh, honestly, I don't talk about it a lot because, it just doesn't really come up. If you saw me, you would be shocked probably, or if anybody saw me earlier, or you see me after this, you're going to think, wow, she looks too young to have had a heart attack. But in 2020, I was 39 and, it was an emotionally difficult time, and without going into too many details, I'm of mixed race. And, I think that's given me an interesting perspective on, relationships in general. And so, my heart was literally hurting for everybody, I guess, and kind of feeling torn between, the different sides of, that people were standing on. And I remember I was actually teaching in my first course. I just launched my first course. It was the last Friday night meeting that we were having because I did like a live Q&A every Friday. My son was on the floor coloring or playing on his iPad, whatever. And we were almost done. And someone asked a question that related to the events of the year. And I felt caught in the middle, because there were different perspectives that, were different than mine. Maybe there were some that were the same as mine, but they were different from each other. And, all I wanted was this night to end on a great note, right? Because it was the first of everything. And in that moment, it was like everything just kind of came to a climax and I felt like somebody was choking me out. And I have the video. I haven't watched it, but I do still have the video because it was a recorded Zoom. Yeah.
Oh my God.
Yeah, I have not watched it. And I finished the call, we had like 5 or 10 minutes left. And, everybody kind of looked at me like they could tell something was wrong, that something wasn't quite right. But I was like, okay, bye, thanks, And then afterwards, I went to go get some aspirin from the pharmacy. I didn't want to, make my son panic. So, we drove around to the pharmacy. I dropped him off at my in-laws. And then I called my husband and I said, hey, I need you to meet me. And, after a stop at an urgent care where they said, hey, if you're having chest pains, you can't come here. We finally ended up at the hospital.
Wow.
And that's when I found out that I was having some sort of heart event. And it's something called Takotsubo. My mom said taco soup bowl. And that's how I remember it now. But Takotsubo cardiomyopathy. And it's named for this Japanese bowl or Japanese shape, I think. I can't remember now. But anyway, my heart just basically swelled up like a balloon. And I'm very thankful that I went to the hospital and I was able to get treatment because I went into heart failure, all those things. Had to go to the cardiac rehab. I was like the all-star in my class. but that can kill you. There's women who have lost their husbands, after 50 or 60 years, and they experience Takotsubo. Most people know it as broken heart syndrome.
Okay, so it's definitely related to emotions rather than like clogged arteries.
Yes, everything physically with me, absolutely fine. And I think that was one of the most frustrating things after the whole event, is because, the world was very confusing after that. I mean, I'm waking up every day, very grateful that I was going to wake up. I went to bed every night, not sure I was going to wake up. And that's a very unsettling place to be at any point in your life, but I have a young son, and that is definitely not the thoughts that I wanted to have every night, and every morning. And it was tough because even the doctors, physically, oh, you're fine, go back to work. And I'm like, whoa, 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 hold on. Something's not right here. Like I have to figure this out. Mentally, I was really, really jacked up, and I just knew I had to make a change. And, I don't say this lightly, but I mean, I felt when I was in the hospital room, I felt like God told me, quit your job, like you have to make big changes like today. And, so I was struggling with that, what is next? What am I supposed to do next?
Okay, so what month is this in 2020?
This was September. It's actually Labor Day weekend of September.
Yeah, because sorry, go ahead.
Well, no, I was just going to say it was crazy because after all of this work, my husband had got me a massage, and I was supposed to have like this big massage day, and we were going to go to the beach that weekend to celebrate. And yeah, none of that happened.
I don't know why when you were saying 2020, I thought like this was pre-pandemic, but this is, yeah, you get there and you're like, my chest is starting, and they're like, stay away.
Oh my gosh. No, actually, this is funny. There was a guy, one of the PAs in the hospital, bless his heart. I don't mean to like totally make fun of him, but at the time it was very funny because he had on a full like astronaut mask with some sort of oxygen hose coming out of the back of his helmet. And he had like an oxygen backpack on. I mean, he looked like someone who worked for NASA, and he was the physician assistant that night. I remember that very vividly.
Yeah, because this is pre-vaccine, right? This is still like 4 months, 5 months before, if you want to, the general public can get a vaccine, isn't it? So I think that's like March, April of 21.
Yeah, it was. And thankfully, we were also in that part of time where my husband could stay with me, because there was a period of time where, families couldn't go in or whatever. So I was very grateful because John was with me 100% of the time. My in-laws are fantastic. They took care of Asher. I never had to worry about, my son, but John was with me the entire time. And my heart, I hate to say it, but my heart does hurt for families who were separated or had to, go through something like this during that time, and they didn't have someone with them, because I think that made a huge difference for me as well.
Wow. I am positive that all of us hearing this story right now are going through our own experiences. So like anyone who's listening, and myself included, why don't we just take a second, and instead of thinking like, because I think the natural inclination, especially if you're a parent, is to be like, to now play your scenario as if it was happening to us. So I'm just going to center myself here because I mean, it's me personally. I kind of grew up in a scene where people push the limits. Like a person in a part of our scene died from alcohol withdrawal at like 20. You know what I mean? So this is just an example. So I kind of always grew up like, oh, I'm going to die by like 24. And so everything after that was just like bonus. And so I kind of didn't really care if I died until I had a kid. Right. And then I was like, oh, I don't want to miss a single day with her. Like that'd be some bullshit if I died. So like, that's kind of where my mind's going.
Right. Right. Absolutely. So, but on the flip side of it, just like anything, you said, do I mind sharing my story? No, I don't, because I don't share it a lot, just because it's not necessarily something that defines me. I thought it could be relevant to our conversation because, we're both very empathetic human beings, I think. But it is only a part of my story. And it wasn't all of the workload that, caused me to have some sort of, major health event, but it was one of those moments where I had the opportunity to step back and say, okay, if I only have a limited amount of time, which we all do, how do I want to spend it? What do I really want it to look like? And who is stopping me from that besides me?
Mm. It brings up for me, one of the things I've been reflecting upon is in our own life, right? This isn't saying there isn't any good or bad in the world, but like in terms of things that happen to me, that I've been trying to think like, I don't have a long enough timeline to determine if this is bad or good. And the way you talk about having a heart attack, at the time you'd think, bad, this is bad. But now the way you're talking about it is almost like it was a gift.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I think I talk about SWOT analysis when I'm helping people with their business or whatever. And I think every threat, can be somewhat mitigated if we're aware of it. And every weakness can be shifted into an opportunity, And so that was kind of the approach I think I took with this. And like I said, I have a great support system. I have a husband who is also a special needs PE teacher who was 100%, trying to encourage me to go full time working for myself in my business years ago. He saw from the outside what it was doing to me, and he also saw and sees now just the joy that I get from being creative and from talking with other business owners and trying to figure out that digital marketing puzzle online. He doesn't understand it, but he sees how happy I am, trying to work through it. And so, that's, I guess that's just it. It's like there was no more excuses and no more reasons not to just go for it,
That's awesome. Anything you want to throw into the space in terms of a curiosity question or puzzle you want us to pick apart together?
Man, well, I guess there's just now, it's like, okay, now can we truly marry this idea of success, financial independence? I think because more than success, I want financial independence, like I want to be able to go where I want to go or need to go at any time, and also have the means to do it and do it well for others. Like I think of my parents. They live in Kansas. I live in North Carolina. So it's like, I don't negate the power that, great finances can have. So it's not like I'm anti making a lot of money. I definitely want to do that, but I want to do it within this balance and this perimeter, I guess, of this is where my work stops and this is where my life flourishes. So I guess that's my question, is like, how does that really exist?
Well, you're certainly asking questions of things that I have thought deeply on. So I have many thoughts. So I will be self-disciplined and not rambling. The first thing I think is that, like, I have heard from folks that financial independence is when your money is making you money. I don't really have any amount of cash flow to learn that. But that's like my understanding is that once, like, you can be making, like, let's say $100,000 a year off like money you already have, that's when you have like financial independence. So that's like big picture zoomed out. So it's like, I finally kind of get that now, because we were kind of sold the dream of like, start a course, it'll be passive income. And now I realize there's no such thing as passive income except for interest.
Right.
Like money making you money is the only passive. And I haven't done that yet. So maybe I'll get there and find out I was wrong. But I think on a skill level, if we're talking about like, how can I spend as little amount of my time and make as much as possible, like that's, I think, the equation that we're all kind of looking for in terms of my skill making me money. And I think that, first of all, it takes a long time, depending upon what you got inside of you, to figure out what that offer is. But then once you figure it out, the sky is then the limits. And I think that the part that the discipline comes in is you got to learn to leave money on the table. And it oftentimes is like, okay, now everybody wants to work with me. And so let me say yes so I can get a bunch of cash. And then I think this is where the trick comes in, because then it's like, it's not now you're running around. So I think a big part of it is just like, okay, I'm going to intentionally make less, which usually means that you can spend less, because I think that's the other little thing that I've realized is that, especially I'm going to talk about our industry as coaches and course creators, we've been kind of taught to spend money too quick. Like some people will have a, what do they call them? An integrator or a like business manager or something that's like $50 an hour, like connecting the different parts of your team. And I'm always like, but you're making like $4,000 a month. So I think we spend money on team way too soon. And so I think it's just that balance of like, if you keep your expenses reasonable, then you don't have to make as much, which means you don't have to put as much of yourself into your business to get financial independence and time freedom.
Yeah.
Let me pause there. So your thoughts, what comes up for you?
Well, my thoughts are that, as cliche as it sounds, it's like the joy really is in the journey, and I think the sooner that we all realize that, then the faster we'll get to whatever it is that, is this harmonious success and money and all that type of stuff, because like I said, for a long time, I woke up every day and I was just thanking God that I woke up, and I'm almost a little ashamed that I don't wake up like that anymore, because that's a different mindset when you know that, hey, this no day is promised, and I'm just grateful that I woke up. I mean, that is a beautiful place to live, honestly, because you are living in true gratitude that everything you're experiencing today is a gift. And so, I think just approaching all of it, just the whole experience, once you know what your priorities truly are, and you can say, okay, these are my priorities, and I'm going to put them first today, knowing that now I feel successful. Everything else after that, becomes icing on the cake. I truly feel like that is a definition of success that I've reached for myself. And I'm excited about that. And now I feel like I have a true foundation to build on. Whereas before it was more of, like you said, let me just, take every sale that comes, or, let other people write my destiny for me. But now I feel like I've kind of taken that back and said, no, I'm going to be a part of this story.
So how do you enjoy the journey, even through the like losses and the hardships and the like, I just want to get to the other side? How do you learn to like be like, okay, that's projection thinking, that's not actually living. Let me live in the journey. How do you access that?
Well, I think the first part is, you do have to be realistic like you said, if your income is significantly reduced by your desire to chase a dream, then your lifestyle is going to have to match that. And you have to be okay with that. So if that financial success doesn't come immediately, you have to be okay, living at a different level than maybe you will or did, before you chase this dream, So I think once you've grasped the reality of what it looks like to actually build something from scratch, then you have to hold on to those moments of hope, because the moments of failure can be overwhelming and frustrating and make you question, why did I do this, or what am I doing? Or, was this the right thing? Did I actually hear in my mind what I thought I heard? But then there are those moments of hope and the little gifts that, I feel like God places in front of you, whether it's people or opportunities, or, just becoming aware of something that you weren't aware of before, holding on to those and building on those. And then that way, the next time you fail, there's discomfort, but there's still hope. There's still something out there. So, that's more than anything. I would just encourage everybody just not to lose your hope for whatever it is that you want to accomplish. You've got to find a way to protect it, and you've got to find a way to nurture it, and you've got to always be on the lookout for more.
I love that. Even when it's, I don't know if you use the word uncomfortable, still have hope. That's awesome.
I don't know if I used it, but yes, exactly. Yes.
Well, Crystal, I think that is a good place for us to pause this on. And I want to thank you for giving this a shot with me. It's much more enjoyable recording it as audio on my end. What was it like for you?
Yeah, I mean, you can move around. I like that, I usually have the video on, but typically, like you said earlier, something like lights, camera, action, ready. I was like, oh yeah, Tom has never seen me like with my hair brushed, I don't think, on any video call that we've ever done. So I think that was funny. It's like normally I have on a hoodie, yesterday's hoodie probably, but yeah, it was a lot of fun.
Well, where can the good folks out there find you, tell you how awesome you are, learn more about your business, all that kind of stuff?
Wow. Well, if you are a business owner, and you need some sort of custom sign, you can find me at collagewood.com. That's where I make giant letters and numbers, and I ship them all over the world. I just had my 3,000th sale on Etsy, so that's pretty exciting. Yes, very excited about that. And then, launched this e-commerce Shopify site alongside that. So collagewood.com, definitely check me out there. I'm over on Instagram at Helpful Content Expert. So, if you are in need of bringing content, from social back to your home, back to your homepage and your website, please reach out. I'd love to work with you. I do a variety of different audits like content, SEO, that type of thing. And I think I told you, Tom, but I now also have a podcast as well, all about SEO.
What? Okay, plug that for sure.
Okay, well, it's this Simple and Smart SEO show. And it's with my partner and friend, Brittany Herzberg. We met, through the same group that you and I met. And we just reached our 4,000 download. I think we're on our way to 4,500 right now. And we just launched back in June. So we are super excited about that. SimpleandSmartSEO.com.
I think I know Brittany.
I bet you do. I think she knows you too.
From Social Curator, right?
Yes. And honestly, when I first was, like, oh man, I feel like I connected with Tom. I really feel like I need to do this, but I don't really know too much about him. She's like, oh, I know Tom. He's a good guy.
Boom. It's all about the cosign. If you can get even one cosign, you're smooth sailings in business and in life.
Yes. Yes.
Look at that, 4,000. Right. That is great.
Yeah. So it's all about the SEO.
Yes. And I clearly know nothing about that because I think I've been doing this podcast since 2016. I don't even think we have 4,000 downloads altogether. So I definitely got to learn something from you about the SEO game.
Yeah. Yeah. It's a fun game to play. So gets my competitive juices going.
I like it.
Yeah.
Well, okay, just real quick on that. So you sold 3,000. So you've handmade 3,000 things and sold them?
Yeah, maybe more. But
Holy
yeah,
moly.
that's just on Etsy. So
Wow.
yeah. But like I say, my first $100,000, I didn't know what I was doing. I started to learn by my second $100,000, and now I'm on my way to my third $100,000, and I'm finally profitable. So it's like, I feel like the best days are ahead of us.
That is so exciting. Okay, so yeah,
Mhm.
that's definitely gonna have to be part 2. We're gonna have to get back together, start this off where we left off right here.
Awesome. Oh, I could talk to you forever, but oh my gosh, it's already 2:09. Wow. So yeah, good times.
Okay, here's our closing ritual. What's your invitation for those listening? It could be something you want them to reflect upon, to do, to consider, to be. What would you be your invitation?
My invitation would be to consider what elements make up your perfect day. And I would say, let's try to keep it to like 3 to 5 things. And ideally, they wouldn't be performance related. They would be joy related, peace related, something that for the most part you can control. So that would be my challenge for you. Like, what does your perfect day look like? 3 to 5 things that are only about joy, only about peace, only about, your inner joy and happiness.
Mm,
That's my thing,
I
I
love
guess.
that. No, that's perfect. That's perfect. Wonderful.
Yeah.
All right. Well, and folks out there listening, you may have heard in different episodes, we do have a new program that we've launched that is an intentional community of adventurers. Anyone who wants to learn how to do storytelling centered ads or alignment marketing. That's a real fun way to say ads. Storytelling centered ads, how to think like a marketer, any of that stuff. And so you may have heard at the beginning, the whole reason this interview started impromptu was Crystal was recording a testimonial encouraging you to check out the program. So we're going to, after the show ends, have we're going to play that for you here in a second. And we'd love for you to consider joining us. If you want to check it out, tomearl.me/DCM invite. Don't worry, we got the links in the show notes. So would love for you to check that out, and we'll play Crystal's testimonial after this. Crystal, any final thoughts you want to add before we say peace and blessings?
Nope. I guess I always say no, and then I say yes. But I just want to say thank you. So thank you, Tom. Thank you for everything that you've done for me. I really do appreciate it.
Hey, and thank you. Gosh, we've been working together for almost a year now. It's been awesome. So I appreciate you. Right back at you.
Thanks.
And to all those listening, as always, we're wishing you peace and blessings. Thank you.
Okay, and with that, we will jump into the conversation that I had with Crystal that started this impromptu podcast because we were having such a good talk. I was like, let's just keep this going. So without further ado, let me step out of the way and you can hear when I was interviewing Crystal about the program.
My name's Crystal Waddell. I am the founder and owner of an e-commerce business called Collage Wood. And through my experience at Collage Wood, I learned a lot about SEO and content marketing. So I now have kind of an auxiliary piece of my business that I call crystalwaddell.com, where I help people bring their content back home to their website so that it can work harder for them 24/7.
That's dope. And how would you describe, like, why did we work together? What gave you that initial, all right, let me roll the dice on this guy? What was the reason for that?
Wow. I don't think it was just one specific reason, but I would say the reason that stands out the most to me was just the fact that you were so interested in what I wanted to build. And you were so encouraging, and it was nice to have someone who was ahead of me in marketing actually take a look back and say, hey, I want to bring you along with me. And I believe in what you're trying to do. And so, the moment that we started talking, I had one of those thoughts across my mind. It was, I don't even know what I'm buying here, but here's my money.
I love that. And what are your thoughts? What's it been like? Highs, lows, anything in between?
What it's been like is a learning experience. And I would say that I go into every situation or every opportunity and approach it like a learning experience, because I thought, if I want to grow a successful business, I need to be a part of a successful business. I need to be a part of a program that is leading people through something, just like I want to lead someone through something. So, that was the mindset that I came in with. And, I learned a lot. There was a course, so of course there was that element of self-paced teaching, I don't know if I should talk about that. I'm sorry. But there was a course, and, I really enjoyed your teaching style, Tom. And that was fun. And then I enjoyed getting feedback from you, like just that direct feedback about how I should reframe the way I think about my client and their experience, because so many times it's always about like how I feel the situation should go, but you really, help me understand about how to get into the mind of my client and what they were thinking. And so that was the best way to really connect with them. So I feel like that's one of the things I learned the most.
How do you feel like I did that? What was the process like of kind of shifting to getting into the mind of your client?
I think the way that you did that and helped me get into the mind of my client was just simply by asking questions and asking why. Like, I think you were the first person that I ever heard say something about the 5 whys. Like, why is this happening? And then I would tell you, and then you dig a little deeper. Okay, well, why is that happening? And, just so understanding that there are so many more levels of why people make the decisions that they make. That was one of the biggest takeaways. And I think that's how you helped me understand my clients better, because you just kept asking, why would they do that? And it made me think, well, really, why would they do that? And so instead of just, being a superficial, interaction or trying to have a superficial interaction, I actually started trying to have deeper interactions myself.
I love that. What was something frustrating about our time together?
Oh, let's see. Something frustrating about our time together. I think that probably the most frustrating thing is just not moving forward as quickly as I wanted to. I think everyone kind of fantasizes about that immediate success, because I thought, okay, I'm going to work with Tom and I'm going to get so successful that he's going to have to take all this hard stuff away from me, and that didn't happen. But at the same time, that part of it didn't happen because I wasn't as fully committed as I thought I was to certain things. And, and then there was a lot of changing, because what I thought I knew, because I hadn't asked those deeper questions, was different than what it turned out that I knew, if that makes sense. And so, that's just the nature of business. I wasn't completely surprised, just because that's happened a lot over the last 8 years of my business. But, changing directions and restarting and changing directions and restarting and building and all of those things, sometimes, that's a process that doesn't just manifest into something, spectacular overnight.
What was different? Where you thought it was one thing and then it was another? What was different than you expected?
Or what was different than expected was my initial interactions with the people that I was advertising to, the conversations that I was having with them. I realized they were not the perfect client for me. They were the person I thought that I wanted to help, but they weren't in a position to help. And honestly, the person that I was best in a position to help was a person who was actually in front of me. And that was kind of, a mindset shift that I had to, make with you and realize that I had the qualities and the capabilities and the knowledge to help people who were not just behind me, but in front of me as well, that I had something of value to add and offer to their businesses.
And, a lot of folks, when they come to that kind of a realization where they have this like expectation of, I'm going to be so successful in a month that all the things I hate about my business, I don't have to do anymore. And then you get in and you're like, oh, okay, there's new stuff I need to learn. Oh, I need to kind of shift my offer. I need to shift my audience. A lot of people then just like get super frustrated and just give up. What was it that either that the program helped with or inside of you that you stayed committed, that your mindset's just been amazing throughout the entire process? So, can you speak to that a little?
Absolutely. I can speak to that because this is not my first business. And my first business is an e-commerce business. And for the first few years of my e-commerce business, I was not profitable. I didn't understand finances. I didn't understand building in, a profit margin. I didn't understand paying myself. I couldn't figure out why I was paying other people, but yet not able to pay myself and quit my full-time job. So that took me years to realize. It took me years to realize. We worked together and I found out what didn't work in about 2 months, maybe less. I don't know. So the learning was so fast. And because it had taken me so long to learn really important lessons before in my e-commerce business, I have an appreciation for learning lessons, whether they're good or bad, but learning them quickly so that you can make changes and start moving forward.
I am shifting from, working one-on-one, done for you group kind of stuff we did together to more, what I'm calling an Empower Yourself program, where people are going through pre-recorded material more than one-on-one coaching. What are your thoughts if people are thinking like, oh, that's dumb. I hate courses. They're stupid. I don't want to work with you unless I can only, get hot seat coaching from you. Do you have any thoughts? Or you're like, I'm in the same boat, Tom. I think it's dumb. Like, just curious your thoughts.
Well, I don't think that courses are dumb. I definitely don't think that. I think there's so much value in a course because people come into a course with different levels of knowledge. There's obviously benefits of working one-to-one with someone who is ahead of you, who knows, where you're trying to get to, who's already experienced that success and being able to ask them questions. But I also think that there's a danger in that because then that person almost becomes like this reference point that you have to touch base with that person or that leader before you make a decision, and you lose some of that instinct that you have as a business owner because your instinct is what guides your business. No offense to you, Tom, but you don't know everybody's business. You don't know everything about why a business works the way it does and their customers and that type of thing. So, I love working with you one-on-one, but at the same time, we have to take responsibility for ourselves as business owners and be able to stay agile, to be able to, respond to what's happening in our specific business and be able to respond to that without feeling like we have to run to someone else for validation or for, direction. Like I do love coaching, but I think there's a certain element that, of responsibility, that personal, pride, I don't know if that's the right word, but just that belief in yourself that you can still do this, with or without a coach. It's nice to have a coach there to confirm what you know. But when it shifts to that point of being dependent on a coach versus dependent on yourself as a business owner, that's where I feel like programs and, courses actually win the day.
Boom. I totally agree with that. Right. That you nailed it so well, that because I noticed that people then start to like any decision that they're going to make. If they have a coach, they're like, well, let me outsource the risk because if it ends up not going well, then I can be like, well, it was their fault, and I think that's like personal responsibility of like, hey, even if you take a coach's advice, you're still the one who made the decision. It's your business. If you took their advice and it was bad, it's on you. But I do think that you're right that like it can almost encourage a rely upon me, I have all the answers type of a relationship. That's deep.
Yeah. Business codependency.
Boom. There it is. See, you're a branding genius. Okay. Anything else that you want to throw into the mix for the good people out there who are maybe considering like are on the fence, or anything you want to share?
Yeah, I guess the last thing that I'd want to share is just, kind of marrying two ideas of thought, like one that I learned from my father and then one that I've learned from you. And my dad always said, do things your way, because at the end of the day, whether it goes good or bad, you won't have any regrets about doing it your way. So I say that, but then I also say, but get some help from someone who's been there, get some guidance, learn some lessons. That's the other benefit of working with someone else that's been where you are, learn their lessons so you don't have to learn that specific thing for yourself. You can make new mistakes, right? But, definitely use the resources that are out there. Tom is a caring, genuine person. What you see is truly what you get. I didn't really believe it myself fully at first. I thought, wow, this guy is, just such a genuinely kind person. But he truly is, genuine, helpful, knowledgeable, all of those things. And that combined with whatever you're bringing to the table is, going to become part of your superpower.
Well, Crystal, I have so appreciated getting to work with you. So I appreciate you sharing these words of affirmation. So I appreciate that.
Thank you, Tom.
All right. Once again, I hope you enjoyed that. And once again, if you want to join us in our immersion program, you can check that out in the show notes, or it's tomearl.me/DCM invite. All right, folks. See you next week. As always, wishing you peace and blessings. Thank you.
One more thing. I'd love to continue the conversation. Feel free to join me at tomearl.com/join. Subscribe below, or let's connect on social media. Tom Earl Artist. Thanks again for watching.